Who would like to recite? Verses? Yeah. Thank you so much. Januvito Rajan Natha Pahi Praja Prabho. Vaishnavis. Tasmadidam Daiva Tantram Bharatarshabha Nuvito Natha Natha Pahi Praja Prabho. Tasmat, therefore, idam, this, daiva tantram, enchantment of providence only. Vyavasya, ascertaining. Bharatarshabha, O best among the descendants of Bharata. Tasya, by him. Anuvihitaha, as desired. Anathaha, helpless. Natha, O master. Pahi, just take care. Prajaha, of the subjects. Prabho, O Lord. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O best among the descendants of Bharata, Yudhishthir, I maintain therefore that all this is within the plan of the Lord. Accepting the inconceivable plan of the Lord, you must follow it. You are now the appointed administrative head. And my Lord, you should now take care of those subjects who are now rendered helpless. The popular saying is that a housewife teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching the daughter. Similarly, the Lord teaches the world by teaching the devotee. The devotee does not have to learn anything new from the Lord because the Lord teaches the sincere devotee always from within. Whenever, therefore, a show is made to teach the devotee, as in the case of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, it is for teaching the less intelligent man. A devotee's duty, therefore, is to ungrudgingly accept tribulations from the Lord as a benediction. The Pandavas were advised by Bhishma Dev to accept the responsibility of administration without hesitation. The poor subjects were without protection due to the battle of Kurukshetra, and they were awaiting the assumption of power by Maharaj Yudhishthir. A pure devotee of the Lord accepts tribulations as favors from the Lord. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no mundane difference between the two. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. My dear Lord, please guide us also that We can serve you and participate in your plan, no matter how incomprehensible it may be for us. Hare Krishna. So today we're discussing the last part of our discussion on emotionally healthy spirituality. So let's look at the context, then we look at some insights, and then we'll look at the takeaway. So here, Bhishma is instructing Yudhishthir, and the discussion between Bhishma and Yudhishthir actually is in three parts broadly. There is first his persuasion, he persuades. Then the major part, which actually in the Bhagavatam is very small, he guides, and then finally is he prays. So basically, Yudhishthir is not ready to become the king, and initially Bhishma speaks certain things by which he gets persuaded. So that is the initial part, and we are over here right now. So he persuades him. Now this is the conclusion of the persuasion. And now actually this in the Bhagavatam is extremely brief. In the Mahabharata, this is huge. In fact, the discussion between Bhishma and Yudhishthir is almost as long and as large as the entire story of the Mahabharata itself, in terms of the sheer length. So, and then finally, Bhishma turns inwards and prays to the Lord and departs from the world. So, Yudhishthir is feeling guilty and Bhishma is pacifying him. And the way he pacifies him is by giving a key principle. That is about understanding Krishna's plan. See, we talked about, our broad discussion was about how this, I was discussing about the C acronym. The material world is like a ocean. So situations trigger emotions, and emotions trigger actions. Somebody does something to provoke us, we get angry and we lash out at that person, and everything becomes worse. So this can go southwards. This can go north. So we were discussing how we can be Krishna conscious in looking at our situations. We can be Krishna conscious in the processing of the emotions, and how we can be Krishna conscious in the actions that we do. So this is how the three parts we are discussing. So today we're going to discuss how we're going to process the actions that we are going to do in a Krishna conscious way. Now generally, when the situations, they are as expected, then we can easily make sense of them. We go to someone, we meet them, and we are polite with them and they are polite with us. Then the interaction goes as expected. This, if it's expected, it is relatively easy to deal with it. But when the situation is unexpected, not just unexpected, but it is unpleasant, it is unfavorable, that's when the emotions become difficult to deal with. That's when, if we are being polite and that other person is being utterly unreasonable, we are offering a very good suggestion, a good proposition that benefits them, benefits us, and that person just rejects us. Why are you being like this? So emotions we discussed yesterday can be favorable or unfavorable. And when they're favorable, it's not so difficult to deal with it. When they're unfavorable, it becomes much more difficult to deal with it. Now, our actions can be constructive or destructive. Now, of course, we can say that between these, there are so many other range, and that is true. But right now, we are focusing on broad categories. Our actions can move in a constructive direction, or we can move in a destructive direction. So if somebody is angry with us, and at that time we speak sarcastically to them, now that's not going to be helpful. That's only going to make the situation worse. So now, ideally speaking, the best would be that situations go as per plan, our emotions go as per plan, and our actions go as per plan. That would be wonderful. Say after the program, after this class, there is prasad. The prasad is nicely cooked. We feel happy seeing the prasad, and we taste the prasad. We have a cordial discussion with others. We appreciate the cook, and it's a pleasant discussion. But the situation can be unexpected. That maybe prasad is not there in time, or by the time we go out, prasad is all over. And then we are hungry. Now what? We have to go and cook, or we have to buy someone food from somewhere. Situation is unexpected. And the emotion, maybe we get angry. Why didn't someone keep a plate for me? Or we may be angry with ourselves. Why didn't I go first? Why did I spend my time talking with someone? So emotions can be helpful or unhelpful. And then the actions. Now, when the emotions are strongly negative, at that time, how do we do the actions? So we can just go and yell at everyone, or we can just go and tirade against the person who cooked. Why didn't they cook more? Or we can try to think, okay, what can we do in such situations? Maybe we should always have some backup plan. We should have some food which is easily cookable, or which is easily cooked, and something can be given, which we can keep, some dry food, whatever. We can make some plan and address the situation. So actions can be constructive or destructive. Now, at this point, when we are taking the action, it is helpful to understand, okay, why did the cook less today? But sometimes we may not be able to make sense of the situation. We may not be able to make sense of the situation, and still we have to take some action. See, sometimes things go nicely. It's like the prasad is nice, but still we feel annoyed. Still we feel irritated. We don't know, why am I feeling like this? Everything is going nicely, and still we are feeling some dissatisfaction, some annoyance, some irritation. And why are the emotions like this? And what do I do about it? So ideally, when we are Krishna conscious, we are able to see the situation in Krishna conscious way. Our emotions are Krishna conscious, and our actions are also Krishna conscious. We, through the whole experience, go closer to Krishna. Say we come to the temple, the deities are beautifully decorated, and seeing the beautiful decoration of the deities, we feel an upliftment of devotion in our heart. We feel at least a wave of devotion, or a slight moment of devotion. We feel joy on beholding the Lord. And we bow down to the Lord, we dance for His pleasure, we sing, we feel happy. Now, we come to the temple, and we are in charge of the. We also did dress the deity sometimes. We know how it is to be done. We see that the dressing is not done properly. This is wrong, that is wrong. We feel annoyed. And then, while we are taking darshan, we are mentally replaying how we are going to chastise the pujari. What are we going to tell them? You should not have done like this, you should not have done like that, whatever. So basically for us, in situations, emotions, and actions, our whole life can be summarized in this. Now, sometimes why a particular situation comes up is easy to figure out. Maybe we could say the pujari was lazy, the pujari is incompetent, the pujari is irresponsible, whatever. But sometimes why a particular situation came up becomes very difficult to figure out. Say somebody buys a big property to start a hotel, or buys a big property for B&B or tourism or whatever. And then after they invest in that property, they take a mortgage for it, and then suddenly there's a pandemic, there's a lockdown. Now, who do you blame for it? Do you blame the coronavirus? Do you blame China? Do you blame the government for shutting down? Do you blame the tourists for not having courage to come over here? There's practically no one to blame in that, isn't it? So sometimes we just can't make sense of situations. So basically, when you talk about we all need to make sense of something. We all make sense of life. This is actually one of the fundamental differences between humans and animals. Animals just need means for living. They need food, they need to reproduce, they need somewhere to sleep. But humans need meaning for their life. We want to make sense. So, ideally speaking, we can make sense of life. Make sense of life means, okay, this is why this is happening. This is the best if we can do it. But if we cannot, sometimes we just can't make sense of life. Why is this happening? So at that time, all that we can do is make sense in life. In life means, okay, this is what has happened. I don't know why this has happened, but this is the best I can do in this situation. And this is what I'm going to do. So if we are also part of the temple management, suddenly we find the food is way short. Now, why did the cook so less? I don't know. But let's see what we can do. Do we have somebody else who can cook a little bit more? Can I go and cook something? So we can't make sense of life, but we can still make sense in life. Suppose a fire breaks out, then we would like to know what caused the fire. But even if we can't know what caused the fire, at least we can try to extinguish the fire. So make sense of life means to understand the cause. Make sense in life means to focus on the cure. Ideally, the cause helps us in determining the cure. But sometimes we just can't make out the cause. What caused the fire? Still, we can focus on the cure. So here, what is Yudhishthir? How is Bhishma persuading Yudhishthir? That's what we have been discussing. And to explain the context, I had to give this philosophy. That see, the Kurukshetra war was actually a terrible event for everyone. And Kurukshetra war, Yudhishthir feels guilty about it. We discussed that. How he feels, I caused so much death. All this war happened to make me the king, and my sons are killed, my brother is dead. And it's horrible. But he feels this is something which I did bad. So what Bhishma does is, if we consider the timeline of a life, Bhishma, he shifts Yudhishthir's vision to the past. And he says that Aho kashtamaho anyayam yadyuyam dharmanandana. He says, right from your childhood, how many difficulties did you face, O Yudhishthir? See, he just turns the table around almost, that normally when we go to a hospital, somebody is having terminal cancer and they're sick and they're going to die soon. No, we will feel bad for them. Oh, it's so bad that such a thing happened to you. But suppose we go to the hospital and the person says, you have had such a tough life. So many bad things have happened to you. That almost takes the wind out of our sail. What is going on over here? Isn't it? So Bhishma is going to die and Yudhishthira is feeling terrible about it, that I caused his death. And what Bhishma's starting point is that look at your own life. Can you make sense of even your own life? You are saying you can't make sense of the war, that you are a terrible person, that you did this. You caused the war. So Bhishma says that you suffered aho kashtam, aho anyayam. So kashta is adversity. Anyaya is atrocity. What is the difference between adversity and atrocity? Adversity and atrocity. What is the difference? Yeah.
Atrocity is something that happens just incidentally, and adversity is maybe more insidious.
Yeah. Yeah, true. That's true. Adversity is more natural. Atrocity is more intentional. It's that, say, if our power supply goes off, that's adversity. If we come to know our neighbor cut off our power supply line, that is an atrocity. So now among these, while both are difficult to bear, atrocity is much more difficult to bear. Because how could anyone do like this? So for the Pandavas' life, he says that you lost your father when you were young. When you're not even young, you're just a child basically. That is adversity. But then your own brother, your own cousin tried to kill you. That's a atrocity. So throughout your life, bad things have happened to you. And then he says that these bad things should not have happened to you because you are such a good person. You've always been such a good person. He says, Aho kashtamaho anyayam yadyuyam dharmanandana. He says that you were always virtuous. Jivitum narhat klishtam vipradharma achyutashraya. You were always living under the guidance of the Brahmanas. You're following the principles of Dharma. And you're even taking shelter of the Lord. And yet these things happened. And for most people, see, if you try to be a good person and then bad things happen to you, people say, most people, what is the point of living? If life is so unfair, life is so brutal, that every time I do good, it just backfires on me and boomerangs on me and hurts me only. So, Jeevitam narhat klishtam, he said that, after you try to obey your elder and your uncle, and then that led to you losing your entire kingdom and your wife being humiliated because of you, most people in that situation would not have been able to live. People would have committed suicide at that time. Jeevitam narhat klishtam. Such a thing should not have happened to you. It makes life itself seem so horrible. And he starts that right from the beginning, and he says that samstite atirathe pandav. He was such a powerful king, but samstite, he passed away very early. Prutha bala prajavadhu. So Prutha, she had a small children, and Vadhu, she was a bride, and she was all alone in the forest. Yushmat krite bahun kleshan prapta tokavati muhu. Since that time onwards, just kept getting distress after distress after distress. So Kunti, when she meets Krishna, when Krishna goes as the peace messenger, Kunti meets and Kunti tells Krishna that my life has been just an ocean of sorrows. And she describes all that has happened in heart-wrenching detail. Then he says that how could this have happened? Sarvam kala kritam manye bhavatam cha yad apriyam sapalo yad vashe loko vayoriva ghanavali. So he says, Sarvam kala kritam manye. This is the working of time. What does time mean over here? See, the Bhagavatam treats time almost like a causal agent. See, we in modern times think of time just as something which passes. Time is a mechanical force which passes, but the Bhagavatam treats it as a causal agent. That it is, you are going through a bad phase, but that bad phase is sarvam kala krutam manye. Now, bad phase means like, okay, the weather is bad today, and then you are suffering because of bad weather. But he is saying that sarvam kala krutam manye. This is because of time. And bhavatam chayad apriyam. Apriyam is unfavorable. This is a bad phase for you. And sapalo yad vashe loko. In front of time, everybody is powerless. That the kings and their kingdoms, everything can be destroyed. Sapale yad vashe loko. If we study history, there have been powerful civilizations across the world. And just suddenly in terms of historical time, they just get destroyed. In 1910, nobody would have thought that in 30 or 40 years, the British Empire would end. Britain had unrivaled power all over the world. And 2 world wars later, and Britain just became a minor power, a second or third grade power in the world. Things just changed drastically. And he says, the example is Vayor iva ghanavalihi. That just says the clouds look huge, clouds are visible, clouds are sometimes gigantic, but the clouds are pushed by the wind. We can't see the wind at all, but the clouds push the wind. Sorry, the clouds are pushed by the wind. So like that, it says all of us are pushed by time. And it says when somebody is going through a bad time, one of the points the Bhagavatam makes when it says Sarvam Kala Krutam Manye, when this theme comes up, is that When you are going to a bad phase, don't fixate on trying to find the cause. Now, this person did like this, I did like this, they did like that. Now, yes, at a practical level, sometimes we have to see whether there is a particular cause and I can deal with it. But when we get too caught in specific causes, it just doesn't help, because it's just a bad phase we are going through. And then he says, how can you say it's a bad phase? Okay, this person did wrong, that person did wrong, that person did wrong. He says, there is so many things going right for you. See, if in a cricket match, the team has the best batsman, the best bowler, the best players, they have the most favorable pitch, they are on they are playing a match in home territory and they are in great form, and still they lose a match. Exactly what happened? How did they lose? So if everything is going right for you and still things go wrong, then there must be some higher power working over there. So he says, what are the things that were going right for you? Yatra dharma suto raja. O king, you were the son of Dharmaraj. You were the son of Dharma. He's known as Dharmaraj, as Yudhishthir. Gada panir vrukodara. You had not only virtue on your side, you had strength on your side. That is, so there are people who are virtuous, people who are good, but they have to, if they don't have strength, they will be overpowered. This is, you had goodness and you had power on your side. Who was the power? Bhima was there. Gada panir vrukodara. Krishna astri gandivam chapam. And it was not just brute strength. You had skill. Arjuna was an example of natural genius meeting fanatical determination. The way he practiced archery in his Gurukul, that was phenomenal. His ability was unparalleled. He says, and not only that, Surut Krishnas Tato Vipad, and you had God himself on your side, and yet you suffered. So he's saying that when so many things are going right for you and still things go wrong, then don't make one small cause into a big cause. See what happens sometimes? When something has gone wrong, there's a common tendency to scapegoat. Because of you this happened, because of you this happened. And now most people will scapegoat somebody else. But there are some people who have this like mental martyrdom. Oh, they just beat themselves up. Okay, I'll offer myself a sacrificial lamb because of me everything went wrong. It's not like that. So he says that the only way we make sense of things that don't make sense is that there is some higher purpose over here. Nayasya karichid rajan puman ved vidhitsitam yad vigyasaya yukta yad vijigyasaya yukta muhyanti kavayopihi. He says, muhyanti kavayopihi. Even the wise people are bewildered about what is the Lord's plan. Nayasya karichid rajan. That nobody understands. Why do things happen the way they do? So when we think about that Krishna's plan is inconceivable, Krishna is inconceivable, that is not just an abstract philosophical concept. Why are things going the way they are going in my life? Prabhupada says that when he was knocked down by a cow in Delhi, when he was trying to distribute books, distribute Modern Magazine, he tells Tamal Krishna later in a conversation, another place also he says, I was thinking, why is this happening to me? What is going on? What does Krishna want me to do? Prabhupada never doubted Krishna, but he certainly had a question, what is Krishna's plan over here? That he was trying to serve Krishna. And now if you consider, a cow is related to the mildest of animals. The cows can also become dangerous, but generally cows are not very dangerous. And Prabhupada's books were all about protecting cows and taking care of cows. And a cow hit him. And, okay, what does Krishna want me to do? So he says that it is muyanti kavayopi. That it is very difficult to know. And that brings us to the verse that we are discussing today, the 17th verse. Tasmad idam daiva tantram. Therefore understand Daivatantram. All this is working. All these things are moving under some divine supervision. Vyavasya Bharatarshava. When you can't make sense of things, either we have only two options, that either things itself don't make sense, or there is some higher sense that I can't see sense right now. So tasya nuvihito rajan. And here Bhishma uses a very poignant word. He uses anatha natha pahi praja prabho. Anatha refers to an orphan. It literally, sometimes the word Prabhupada translates as helpless, but basically anatha means orphan. So he's saying that for the people who have been orphaned by the war, you have the opportunity to be anath. You have the opportunity to be the protector for them. Now, this especially touches a chord for Yudhishthir, because he himself has been almost like a anath. Now, of course, he always had a mother. But still, losing his father when he was still young, and especially it is that nowadays, with a single mother, the country offers so much welfare and support and all those things. They were just alone in the forest. And it was completely without any anticipation. Not that his father fell sick. It was not that the father fell sick and he had some time to say goodbye to his father. He had some time to mentally prepare for that. Nothing. His father was hale and healthy one moment, and next moment he was dead. So the trauma that he suffered, he said that now generally any good person is there, if they have gone through a very bad pain, then they would, sometimes people say that, no, I wouldn't want my worst enemy to go through what I went through. What that means is that's one way of conveying that it's such a terrible pain, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So here what he's saying is that there are so many people who are in the same plight that you found yourself in your childhood. And you can make a difference now. You can, for the anath people, you can be anath. You can, for the orphan people, you can be their shelter. You can be their guide. So the idea over here is that sometimes we can't make sense of our situations. Sometimes we can't even make sense of our emotions. Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? But still, we can make sense through our actions. So why did Yudhishthir have to fight a war in which there was so much bloodshed? Now we may say, why should Yudhishthir feel guilt? We discussed why he felt guilt, but still somebody else could have been, they got what they deserved. So he says, okay, you are feeling guilt, that's okay. You had that situation, that's okay. But focus on your action now. What is the action? You can be a part of the solution. You can make a positive difference right now. So this is where the message becomes very practical. That is, so Krishna consciousness, ideally, you can say Krishna consciousness can work in three different ways. That it's that, how should I put it? Okay, let's put it this way. Ideally, in Krishna consciousness, we can make sense of the situations, we can make sense of our emotions, and we can make sense through our actions. That we understood what is happening, we understood why we are feeling what we are feeling, and we understand, okay, this is what I should do at this time. So the situation is, there is a shortage of prasad over here. Why? Because an unexpected group of people came over here. Okay, let's cook. I've got something at my home, or we have got this stock over here, we can cook this. An emotion we feel a sense of responsibility. This is my temple. And we act. So ideal is, we make sense of the situation, we make sense of the emotion, and we make sense through our action. We could say this is the best. Now the second is, sometimes we just Sorry. Sometimes we just can't make sense of the situation. But there's emotion and there is action. So, ideal is all three work together. But sometimes, okay, why did this happen? I thought the temple was going well, but there's suddenly a financial crisis over here. There's suddenly managerial crisis over here. There's suddenly something is going on over here. What's happening? So now we just can't make sense of the situation. Why did this happen? Okay. So there's some senior devotee who we liked and we trusted, and then suddenly that devotee has left Krishna consciousness or has had some fall down. What happened? What's going on? The emotion is, I'm concerned about the temple. I'm concerned about the community. I want to be a part of the solution. So then in that case, so if all three work together, that is the best. If all three don't work together, let's have the emotion and the action. This is also good. But in sometimes what happens is we can neither make sense of the situation, neither can we make sense of the emotion. And at that time, rather, we can't make sense of why it is happening. We can't sense of why am I feeling the way I'm feeling. But at that time also, to take action. That is extremely difficult. This is, you could say, the toughest. So this is where, in one sense, the greatest dedication is required. It's like, say, as the same instance, if you that we trusted a senior devotee, and that devotee was like a guide for us, an inspirational figure, and that devotee falls away, and then we are shattered by it. But then, rather than thinking only of our shattered heart, we think about, okay, the whole community is shattered. I have to pick up the pieces. Recently, we had Prabhupada's disappearance day. So it happened that when Prabhupada departed, none of the devotees were prepared for it. They knew it was likely to happen, but when part of them was hoping it won't happen. And almost everyone fell apart. So Prabhupada had called Tamal Krishna Maharaj to be his side, and initially, at least for all the ceremony to be taken care, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he maintained a very stoic demeanor. Everybody was crying and broken. Tamal Krishna Maharaj kept himself strong and tried to deal with the issue, tried to make sure that the whole ceremony went on properly. So what happened is the emotion was there, but the service had to be done. The memorial service, the cremation, all the ceremony had to be done. So sometimes our emotions may not be supporting us, but real dedication means that even if our emotions are not for us, still we do the action. If consider doctor, ideal is the doctor is in a hospital, there's some emergency, we understand what caused the emergency, and then we have the resources and we treat the emergency. But if we find out the situation is completely unfavorable, the doctor is not in the hospital, doctor is somewhere on the field, and all the equipment that they need is not there. Situation is very unfavorable. And then, okay, this is what I need to do. And they take responsibility and they do it. But suppose it's not just that the doctor is, there's a medical crisis with no equipment, the doctor is outdoors, and at the same time they got some terrible news. Maybe somebody close to them is also victimized in that disaster. The emotions are just not there, and there's nobody else to take care, so they have to put aside their emotions and they have to do what needs to be done. So that actually calls for a much greater responsibility. So nothing makes sense for me right now, but still what I know is that Krishna is my Lord and I am meant to serve him. So that mood, if a devotee has, that requires a lot of Krishna conscious character, that requires a lot of spiritual substance. We may call it faith, but the word faith has so much baggage associated with it. I would prefer that there's a lot of depth of Krishna consciousness is required. When everything is falling apart, when we ourselves feel as if we are falling apart, still we pull ourselves together and do what needs to be done. It's not that we are just suppressing our grief. It's not just we are sidelining our pain. It is that we are seeing that there is a purpose to be fulfilled over here. Tasmadidam Daivatantram. Daivatantram means that Krishna is in charge. Tasya Anuvihito Rajan. This is what I am here. I am in this situation. Sometimes I am in this situation. This is what needs to be done. Let me take a step forward and do it. Sometimes some of us may think, oh, what is Krishna's plan for my life? No, Krishna will come in a dream and tell me, or my spiritual master will give me one lifelong instruction. Or, I will have, one day I'll wake up and I'll have crystal clear conviction. This is what my life is meant for. No, Krishna, it is one part of Krishna's plan that we can't know Krishna's plan. That because we are finite beings and Krishna is infinite, so it's like, suppose the military is organizing a major covert operation. That means, okay, troops, you go over here, those troops will go over there, those troops will go over there, and then the general knows what is going on. But the general doesn't tell anyone else what the big picture is. Why? Because if any of them get caught, then the enemy catch them, torture them, and force them out, and the whole cover of everyone will be blown up. So what happens is, all that is happening, there is a big plan over there, but no one knows what the big plan is. You go here, you do this, you do this, you do this. So in many ways, our life is like that. It's like no one knows fully what Krishna's plan is. And that no one knows Krishna's plan is Krishna's plan. That's why even Prabhupada, when he goes to America, he in the Markine Bhagavad Dharma says that Ache kichu karya tab ei anumane nahe keno ani ben ei ugrasthane. He says, Ache kichu karya tab. You must have some purpose, O Lord. I guess it. Otherwise, why would you have brought me here to this terrible place? So, Prabhupada never claimed that he had a hotline to Krishna, and whenever he would meet some person, Krishna would tell him from within, this person is going to become a devotee, spend time with this person. This person is not going to become a devotee, don't waste time on this person. No, Prabhupada was approaching the situation and he was acting according to the situation. So the idea is that sometimes for us, we just cannot sense what Krishna's plan is. So, but even then there is a plan of Krishna. And rather than considering that our inability to pursue Krishna's plan is a defect in Krishna's plan, or is the evidence that nothing is going on, that everything is chaotic. Rather, what we need to do is that, okay, this is also a part of Krishna's plan. So this is the last point. I'll conclude with this, that, and when we can't make sense of things, what do we do at that time? One extreme could be, we say, just there is no sense at all. There is no God, there is no plan, there is no sense to be made at all. Life itself is chaotic. There's a philosophy called absurdism. Nowadays on social media, especially on Instagram, that is becoming quite, not exactly popular, but it's being talked about a lot. Life is absurd. There's no sense to life at all. Somehow you just have to live in this world. Now there is no sense at all. That is, this will lead to complete hopelessness. Very difficult to live if we think life has no sense. Why can't I make sense? Maybe there is something I'm missing. It's like sometimes, you may watch some detective fiction movie or a crime series. What am I missing over here? There must be some evidence. Why can't I figure it out? Why can't I make sense of it? This makes us frustrated. So, this is worse, but this is also not so good. But what we can say is that that's a part of the plan. What's a part of the plan? That I can't make sense. So, that's a part of the plan. This can keep us This is can keep us positive, purposeful. Okay. If I am not meant to know why this is happening, if that is by design, that means that with the knowledge I have of things, let me make the best that I can. Let me make sense of the situation. If I have not been given the big picture, if a soldier has not been told why you are here and what is the big picture, okay, if this enemy is attacking, let me deal with the enemy in the best possible way. So the idea is, if there's a part of the plan, small, simple steps. Start with small, simple steps. Like, this is a situation, and this is what I can do to deal with the situation. Now, of course, for Yudhishthir, what he could do was huge steps. He was the king, and he could bring about enormous relief measures. And that phrase, Anatha Pahi Natha Prabho, that for the protectionless, you can be the protector. See, in war, Yudhishthir might not have been the greatest strategist. He might not have been the greatest warrior. But he had the greatest heart. And some people might be very good at winning wars. But there could be completely other leaders who are needed for rehabilitation after the war. Because rehabilitation requires a whole different set of instincts. Like in companies also, there's some people who start off a company, they're startup geniuses. But then the daily grind of making sure that the company functions, that they're not so good at. They want excitement, they want adventure, they don't want predictability and structure. So, Yudhishthir, now the role that is there for you, this is just made for you. Why you got here doesn't matter. Stop beating yourself up that you are the best person. He has a sense of virtue. He has an instinct to be noble and kind and forgiving. He says, you rehabilitate the kingdom. And that is what happens. Although the war has been devastating, after that, Yudhishthir brings a glorious era of peace and prosperity. The Bhagavatam will describe that in future chapters and future verses. So in this way, what does it mean for us? That our Krishna consciousness, we try to make sense of situations, we try to have favorable emotions, and we try to do favorable actions. But if we can't, sometimes we just can't make sense of the situation, we can't make sense of the emotions, but still, you can say, Krishna, I don't know what I am going through, I don't know why I'm feeling what I'm feeling, but what I do know is, you are my Lord and I am your servant. So I am going to serve you. Please guide me, please strengthen me. And then if we keep doing that, Prabhupada said, Nachao, Nachao, Prabhu, Nachao se mate. Make me dance, O Lord, make me dance. This is the God who helped, Krishna is the Lord who helped Arjuna to emerge victorious against insurmountable odds. This was the Lord whom serving Hanuman went into Lanka and came out victorious. This was the Lord who responded to the call of Draupadi. This was the Lord who responded to the call of Gajendra. This was the Lord who protected 5-year-old Prahalad when his own father was out to kill him. This is the Lord who will never fail his devotees. And that Lord is our Lord. So, with this understanding, a devotee stays ashabadda. A devotee always stays hopeful. Hopeful, not in a passive sense, but hopeful in an active sense is purposeful. Krishna, I will do my part. As much as I can understand, I'll do my part, and in due course, you will reveal your plan to me, if that be your plan. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. We're talking about today in the part of how to process our emotions. The actions how they can be constructive and Krishna conscious. The third part we're discussing. So I started by talking about how we humans, we need a sense, we need means like all animals, but we need much more meaning. We want to make sense of things, why things are happening. And Krishna consciousness is ultimately the philosophy that is meant to help us find meaning in our life. But when we face meaninglessness, when we feel that life just doesn't make sense. Life is senseless. Now, at that time, how do we deal with it? So Yudhishthira is feeling like this. So what does Bhishma do? We discussed the Bhishma Yudhishthira Samvad, that the conversation. Bhishma turns the table around and says that, look at your entire life. So much of your life didn't make sense that you were going through an unfavorable time. But still, through it all, although your father died, although your brother tried to kill you, your cousin tried to kill you, although your uncle watched on as you're humiliated, despite it all, you thrived, you became powerful. Now, there is a higher plan that is working. So Bhishma turns it around for him. That look at the big picture. So big picture means what? We see that there will be many unfair things in life, many senseless things in life, but still, even through that, there is some higher plan that is happening. So we talked about degrees of Krishna consciousness. This was the broad context. Then, with respect to the insight, I talked about Krishna consciousness levels, we could say. The most holistic way to be Krishna conscious is that we can see this, we can make sense of the situations in a Krishna conscious way. We can make sense of the emotions. When something happens, okay, why is this happening? I am feeling Krishna conscious. I feel a sense of connection, and then our actions come up. Actions. So this is, we could say, the best in the sense of this is the most holistic. But sometimes situations we just can't make sense. Still, we make sense of emotions and then we act. This is also good. So this is also, in one sense, good. But when the situations we can't make sense, the emotions we can't make sense, and that time we have to act. This is the toughest. Not just the tough, but the toughest. So Yudhishthir is right in this particular situation. And the takeaway for us was that when we can't sense Krishna's plan, what is going on? What we need to conclude is that there's no plan. No, that's a wrong conclusion. I am left out. Everyone else knows the plan. Why did I not get the memo? Not like that. That it's a part of the plan. That I can't make sense is like a part of the plan. So that means we discuss a massive covert operation where nobody knows what is actually going on, because that secrecy is a part of the plan. So then what do? We focus on that Krishna, I am your servant. So we take small, simple steps as we can in a mood of service. And we make sure that our actions stay constructive. And that way, even through the darkest of phases, we will pass through by holding on to Krishna in a mood of service. If we say there's no plan, we'll just become hopeless. If we feel we have been left out of the plan, we will feel resentful. But if we see that, okay, that I don't know the plan, that's a part of the plan, then we can be purposeful. And that purposefulness, we discussed the example of Srila Prabhupada, how even not that he had always clarity how Krishna is acting, but he kept doing his part. So sometimes we cannot make sense of life, but still we can make sense in life. We can't make sense of the situations. We can't make sense of the emotions that we are feeling, but still, even if we can't, we make sense in life by taking small steps to continue our service through even the most dark of situations. And Krishna will bring us to the supreme light eventually. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any question or comment?
You were mentioning that Srila Prabhupada, he was gored by a cow, and he was wondering what is Krishna trying to tell him. So If you don't figure out why you had to go through the situation, then does that automatically mean you're going to have to go through it again until you learn whatever the lesson is that Krishna's trying to teach you?
Okay. So is it that if we can't figure out why we are going through a situation, and then we have to keep going through that situation till we learn the lesson? Well, it depends. I would say is the situation caused by our actions, or is the situation caused by something which is completely beyond our control? Say, for example, if somebody repeatedly keeps taking up roles that they are not talented enough for, or they take a burden way beyond their capacity, and each time the project collapses, their endeavors collapse. And the lesson you're learning is, okay, start small. Don't aim for something so big right away. If somebody keeps trusting people too quickly and they keep getting betrayed, then we can learn that, okay, maybe I should be a little slow in trusting people. So we could say that in some cases, so basically, when a problem comes in our life, when suffering comes in our life, the problem could be because of some action we did and it came back upon us. And this time we do need to find out the cause so that we can correct it. The cause leads to the cure. But sometimes there is practically nothing that we did and still the problem comes upon us. So there's something negative I did and something negative comes upon me. But we didn't do anything negative and still something negative comes upon us. Then at that time, trying to figure out the cause. Is there a cause? See, sometimes we just can't figure it out. And many times, yes, it is important to learn the lessons that are there to be learned. But sometimes the only lesson to learn is that there is nothing to learn over here. Because, our mind can trick us in both ways. We don't think enough about some situations which we should be carefully thinking through. But sometimes we think too much about situations where there's just nothing to learn. It's like sometimes just terrible things happen in life. So, especially when everything was going right. Say if somebody hastily, without consulting anyone, invests all their money in a scheme which turns out to be a Ponzi scheme, and they lose all their money. There's something to learn over there. That, okay, don't put all your money like that. First consult people. But suppose we do everything right. That means that we consult experts, we use our own intelligence, we have a clear plan, we have good strategy, and still something happens and the whole thing gets ruined. At that time, what do you do at that time? We just have to accept that things don't work. And sometimes that's how life is. So basically we could say that there are, when we face what happened here? It's weird. Okay. So when we face suffering in our life, there are two ways we could look at it. As I said, some people just rush from blunder to blunder to blunder and never learn. But some people, something happened 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and they're agonizing about it after 10 years also. Why did this happen to me? So the key point is that we should use our intelligence to try to learn things. But if there's nothing to learn over there, then what do we do at that point? We just need to move on. Now, was there something specific that, say, for example, Prabhupada had to learn because that through all his outreach setbacks that he faced in India? Well, was there something to learn from each of these? Prabhupada never said, okay, I tried this didn't work, and I learned this from this, and I learned from this. He tried to run a magazine, and that didn't work. Then Prabhupada didn't keep a journal, or Prabhupada didn't talk about, from this setback I learned this, from this setback I learned this, from this setback I learned this. Prabhupada did not talk about that way. But overall, what Prabhupada learned was If this is not working, try this. If this is not working, try this. And then Prabhupada eventually came to the point that my spiritual master wanted me to share wisdom, bhakti wisdom in the Western world. That's what I'm going to do. And he came to America. And not that America welcomed him with open arms and things worked out immediately. There also it was difficult. So certainly we should try to learn. But I think, sometimes we have this, the new age spirituality is there. And I'm not saying it's all bad. But the thing is, sometimes we try to reduce life to like just a simple jigsaw puzzle. This place will fit over here, this piece fits over here, this fits over here. Yes, life can be treated like a jigsaw puzzle, but it's a very complicated jigsaw puzzle. And it's not very simple that from this incident I learned this lesson, from this incident I learned this lesson. We can try to learn, we should try to learn, but life does not fall into like a neat lesson plan. Okay, like if you are in a classroom teaching a course, we have this, this is a course objective. After this class, we should learn this. After this class, we should learn this. After this class, we should learn this. Life does not fall into, life is not like a neat course with clear lesson plans and clear learning objectives. So ultimately it is that we have to become more and more focused on serving Krishna. And it's like as devotees, we become through every day that we go through. What the success of every day is what? That we come to know Krishna a little better. We come to love Krishna a little more. Dharma sunashita pumsam vishwaksena katha suya notpadyadirtim shrama eva kevalam. By attraction to Krishna is not increasing, then the day is waste. Whatever I'm doing, it's not really very productive. So ultimately, that is the big lesson. Let me turn my eyes and my heart toward Krishna, and let me not keep my hopes in the world. That doesn't mean we reject the world, but specifically, I'm not sure, at least in our tradition, I haven't seen this particular point that from particular disasters, particular lessons are to be learned. And from this disaster, this lesson is learned. We have the mood of learning, and we also have the 24 gurus in the 11th canto, where just by observing a hill, observing the sky, observing a river, the seeker learns valuable lessons. So in that sense, we can always have a learning mood. But whether this idea that if a problem is coming, and if we don't learn from it, we will have to face that same problem again. That may or may not always be true. It depends on how the problem is coming. Suppose somebody is an alcoholic and they relapse whenever they have alcohol nearby. The lesson they should learn is, I should not keep alcohol nearby. In that case, it's a fairly easy to learn lesson. But suppose somebody is recovering from alcohol and they just, after great effort, they quit alcohol. And that's the time they discover they got liver cancer. Now, just when I put my life together, now it seems my life is being ruined. What is there to learn over here? Now, specifically, it may be very difficult to figure out at that time. Okay, you got your life together now. Now that this is a warning signal, just focus on Krishna. Now, give your life to Krishna wholeheartedly. That could be an ultimate lesson. But life, if you try to focus too much on trying to learn lessons, everybody has their vulnerability. Like I have a problem that I think a lot, and that's why I'm going so much long in this answer, that overthinking can be a problem for people who are too emotional. Just mind just goes off. But overthinking can be also a problem for people who are too rational. For people who are too emotional, their overthinking it's all guided by like mental fantasies or mental nightmares. But for people who are too rational, their overthinking is just overanalysis. Maybe this is like this, this is like this, this is like this, this is like this. And sometimes, it's just that the world, just the thing we make sense is that I have to go closer to Krishna. We really can't, beyond that, make so much sense of things. Not necessarily every incident will have a neat lesson from that incident. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaur Premanande.